You're listening to the Fierce Valley Podcast. Episode 155 is Wegovy, Ozempic, the miracle weight loss drug it's made out to be. Let's do it.
Perfect.
Hello, welcome to this episode. I'm your host, Vinnie Wellsby, pronouns they, them. Coming to you from the traditional, ancestral, unceded territory of the Coast Salish people, Squamish, Tsleil-Waututh, and Musqueam nations. We have a jam-packed episode today. In fact, I think I'm going to have to split it into two. I don't think I've ever done a two-parter before. So it's giant. Before we start, just a kind of a note on last episode about fat bias in the media. Something that's come to my attention is that I noted that Rebecca Pull was the most quoted person and in regards to academics. And I said that she was thin, and I think I said something like, well, you know, at least she's fighting the good fight, something like that, not those exact words. But actually, I found out she is thin, and also she is one of the people who is touting fatness is a disease rhetoric. Wop, wop, wop. So she is one of those people who say, be nice to fatties, they can't help being fat and greedy. So yeah, I take back saying, hey, well, at least she's on our side kind of thing. She's not. So anyway, so today we are talking about all of the stuff that you might have been seeing on the internet. Maybe you've experienced it in your life or seen friends and family start taking weight loss drugs, because in the last couple of years we've had a big uptick in awareness of these new drugs. They're not actually new, but new dosing and marketing for weight loss. And like what do we know about it? I've spoken about Wegovy like 2 years ago when it had just been in 2021, when it had just been approved by the FDA. And so I was like, oh my God, I only spoke about this like 3 minutes ago, but I mean, Jesus Christ, time goes really quick. But now we've had a little bit of time for the marketing machine to do its work and for the drug to get into people's hands and see what's happening. And so let's talk about it and all the different names and variations and all that type of stuff. This episode, I don't know if you can hear it in the background, but my computer, my laptop, my MacBook Air, it's fighting for its life. The fan is going because this document that I have in Google Notes is absolutely huge, and it's so big my computer's like, no, why are you giving us this much information? Stop it. Which goes to show the amount of research that has gone into this episode. It's been 2 full days plus extra hours here and there researching this podcast. So it's been a big undertaking for me. And if that's something that you appreciate, and you appreciate me producing a free podcast for you where we have no adverts, then consider giving a donation, buy a cup of coffee, a cup of tea, whatever, for me on Ko-Fi, or Ko-Fi rather. I just want to say Ko-Fi. Ko-Fi just sounds right? But anyway, Ko-Fi, K-O-F-I, Fierce Valley. Link in the show notes. There you can do a one-time donation of $5, or if you would like the size diversity resource guide, you can set up a monthly donation for $5 or $10 or $20. You'll get extra perks if you choose the higher levels. The size diversity resource guide is awesome, but I won't say but, it is, full stop. And so if you appreciate this work of fat activism for free, and me taking like 75 years out of my life to do this research and expose to myself to these doctors on TikTok, I'm traumatized. And if that is something that you can do, then I would really, really appreciate it. Okay, so what we're going to be talking about probably over these 2 episodes, because it's so gigantic, is 1, what is Wegovy / Ozempic / semaglutide / all of the other names that we have out there? Who are Novo Nordisk, the manufacturers? The overview of the drugs, review of the research, the marketing using weight stigma, supply issues and celebrities using it, personal stories from those who've used it, Novo Nordisk's lawsuits and scandals, other new drugs, plus size influencers and TikTok, and finally, so what's the solution? And trigger warning for these episodes, I will be mentioning poor outcomes / side effects that include suicide, ideation, digestive type issues. Is there any other trigger warnings that I should mention? I mean, well, just the whole anti-fatness of the thing and the whole depressing nature that these drugs exist. So if any of that is not feeling good for you, then skip this episode. And as well, when I come to, there's one story which is a little bit more kind of mentions a little bit more in detail, and I'll just do a trigger warning before that. So if that's just that one thing that's not feeling good for you, then the one thing is about like digestive stuff. So I'll do it before. I'll do another little one before that if you want to skip that bit. Okay, so basically this whole weight loss drug thing, it's not new. Weight loss drugs have been around for ages, but weight loss drugs as a concept, they are based on a set of faulty presumptions, and those faulty presumptions that have led to our current weight loss drugs, 6 of them. Number 1, these drugs are created based on the belief that having a fat body is unhealthy and undesirable. Okay, so that is a faulty assumption. Fat people can be healthy, thin people can be unhealthy. Fat bodies are not diseased things that need to not exist. Number 2, it presumes that making a body smaller will mean that body is now healthy and desirable. What we know about weight loss is that it's not the actual weight loss that increases health. It's health promoting behaviors that might have been engaged in during that weight loss, and then it's prescribed to weight loss. Number 3, that any means necessary to obtain a smaller body is tolerable, as fatness is so abhorrent and unhealthy. You'll see stories here today from folks whose doctors seem to absolutely not give a shit what happens to them as long as they're a few pounds smaller. The next assumption is that the solution to anti-fat bias is erasing the world of fat people. So you'll see in our episode is that Novo Nordisk, the marketing company, might as well call it a marketing company, the pharmaceutical company behind these drugs, have co-opted fat liberatory language, and because we're getting smarter when it comes to marketing, they're not saying fat people are subhuman like what they probably have done in the past. They're saying that it's not fat people's fault, therefore we should get them the treatment that they need to no longer be a fat person and rid the planet of these poor diseased souls. The next presumption is that fat people are fat because they eat too much, and therefore if they eat less and exercise more, then they will be thin. So these drugs are appetite suppressants. Fat people are fat for many, many different reasons. And appetite suppressants, what is another word for an appetite suppressant? A diet. And as we have seen with 100 years of data, suppressing your appetite does not lead to good outcomes or weight loss. Finally, number 6, being temporarily smaller is worth risking the lives and quality of lives of fat people. Because, spoiler, these drugs are made for temporary small amounts of weight loss. But that doesn't matter, because if you were temporarily 5 pounds smaller and, you died in the process, at least you died 5 pounds lighter. Okay, and so then the solution to this supposed problem of fatness is weight loss injections manufactured by Novo Nordisk, called semaglutide, liraglutide, Ozempic, Victoza, Saxenda, Wegovy, the different names in different markets, and the names of the drugs and the names of the marketing, what they're marketed as, different in different areas, and we'll talk about that. So we're just gonna focus on calling it Wegovy, and I'll explain about the different things. You'd be like, well, I've heard it Ozempic, and like why you might have heard different things and what it is. So what is Wegovy? So Wegovy, Ozempic. There we go. That's the new name for it. Wegovy. So Wegovy. So Ozempic or Rybelsus are diabetes drugs. The drug that is in there is called semaglutide. They noticed, the drug manufacturer, that folks lost a little bit of weight while taking this diabetes drug. There's also another one called Victoza, liraglutide. And so what it is a glucagon-like peptide 1 agonist, also known as GLP-1. So you're going to hear that more and more. If you're not familiar with that phrase, you're going to hear that more and more, because that is what these weight loss drugs are. So GLP-1 is a hormone that your body makes naturally, and it's responsible for stimulating insulin release. And so for folks who've been taking Ozempic, Rybelsus, Victoza, and though medication in those brand names, the medication in the brand names, semaglutide, liraglutide, okay? They are all for diabetes. Now, Novo Nordisk, the drug manufacturer, has rebranded the exact same drug, giving it a double dose of the drug, and giving it the name Wegovy. So Wegovy is basically Ozempic, but a different name and double the dose. And Saxenda is Victoza, another diabetes drug, but double the dose. Okay, so Ozempic is for diabetics, and then the exact same drug, double the dose, called Wegovy, marketed to fat people. Okay, so what it does is it is an appetite suppressant, and it makes you feel fuller longer, so slows your digestive. So Ozempic and Rybelsus, which is the diabetes drugs, aren't approved for people without diabetes. Saxenda is the other weight loss branded, is also a GLP-1 agonist, and it's also FDA approved and it came before Wegovy. So Saxenda, the difference is it came before, and the trials showed a little bit of weight loss. Same company, Novo Nordisk, then came out with Wegovy, and the weight loss results were a little bit bigger. So that's why, Saxenda has been around longer, but less people are probably aware of Saxenda, and probably less people are probably taking it, because the results from Wegovy, the marketing machine from Novo Nordisk, has said it's like the most astonishing results that you've ever heard. Let's see if they are the most astonishing results. So to get Wegovy in the United States, someone needs to be have a BMI of, I'm going to mention numbers here, BMI numbers, so skip over a minute or so if you don't want to hear that. Needs to have a BMI of 27. 27? Let me look at my other document. So many of these things. Yeah, 27. And have at least one, quote, weight-related comorbidity. A comorbidity is the simultaneous presence of two or more diseases or medical conditions in a patient. So the examples here that they are saying are weight-related is hypertension, type 2 diabetes, dyslipidemia, which is to do with your lipids and stuff, and sleep apnea. If you look at the Hayes health sheets, you'll see that none of these are caused by fatness. Type 2 diabetes is largely a genetic condition. Sleep apnea is to do with your facial structure and your bone structure. Just eye roll. So if you're BMI of 27 and you have one comorbidity, which is, just basically just being a human, or if you have a BMI of 30 and no issues. And so if you have a BMI of 30, which is, by the way, very small, they are telling us that it's okay to risk the lives of fat people, or just being in a fat body of a BMI 30 is allegedly just making being a disease state. So it doesn't matter if you are healthy, you're fat, so get on this fucking drug. Okay, so that's a little overview of like the basics of the drug. We're going to get in a little deeper. But who are Novo Nordisk? So Novo Nordisk is a pharma company. And a quote from Louise from the Untrapped podcast. If you don't listen to that podcast, it's great. You should go listen to it. So Novo Nordisk, pharma company, built their fortune on insulin, which was a discovery made back in the 1920s by Canadian scientists William Banting and his colleagues. And they believed that insulin should be cheaply made to as many people as possible in the hope of curing and managing diabetes. Yes, William Banting. And so in line with this really wonderful belief, they sold the patent for insulin to the University of Toronto for just $1. Amazing. Love it. In 1923, a Danish scientist, Auguste Crowe, obtained the rights to manufacture insulin in Europe, and he set up the company that would later become Novo Nordisk. And literally since then, Novo has been steadily ruining Banting's legacy by driving up the cost of insulin. And so this company has been in the news a lot in the last few years because Eli Lilly and another, I can't remember the other name, they have been in a price fixing scandal where the cost of this medication now is so high. They watch each other, how much they're charging, and they basically keep, step in step with each other, increasing the price astronomically. And this is in the US, right? In other places, no, they're not allowed to do that because of the beautiful laws that those countries have in place that don't allow this bullshit system set up where drug manufacturers can charge what they want. Other countries have controls in place where they say we're willing to pay this much and this is how much it is, and the customer is the healthcare providers, not the individual patients. And so here the customers are the patients, right? In the US, I'm going to say here, I'm in Canada. So Novo Nordisk, we'll get into the scandals later, but it's a company that's faced multiple lawsuits and penalties for misleading the public about their drugs, their side effects, misleading their investors about the return on money that they're going to get. And because of that, there was a big scandal a couple of years ago, and the US government got involved and was like, what's all this? You're charging everyone too much. And they were like, oopsie. And so nothing really happened. Like they didn't suddenly be like, fuck it, let's make it 10 cents for a drug, whatever. They instead knew that their capacity to make gobs of money from diabetes was limited. Instead of like gobs, it's just gobs. And so they've been making a huge push into fatness. And that is just like a cash cow, right? If you're able to quote unquote treat fatness, then I mean, that's it. Instant billions of dollars of revenue. So how does this drug work? Okay, the Wegovy, semaglutide, whatever you want to call it, Ozempic. So this drug basically triggers the type of cell in the pancreas called the beta cells. And the beta cell's job is to produce insulin. And this is great for those who have diabetes, as their B cells are not producing enough insulin. So what they noticed when they were treating people with diabetes is that they happened to lose a little bit of weight. And so Novo Nordisk said, we like that, losing a little bit of weight. How can we make it so that they lose lots of weight? Double the dose. And so that's what they have done, is they have doubled the dose of this diabetes medication and give it to those without diabetes. So Dr. Fee Willer, you can find her Fiona Willer on the Instagrams. Quote from her: "My great fear is that because it tickles these beta cells, and actually probably a much more apt term for the double dose is hammers the beta cells, that they're going to be exhausted much sooner than they otherwise would. And what that does is turn people that didn't have diabetes into people with diabetes, and now need insulin. These weight loss drugs from Novo Nordisk potentially creating lifelong customers beyond when they have stopped taking the drugs, and they've extended the market. So there's people that wouldn't normally be their customers because their main customer base is people with diabetes requiring insulin. And so what Dr. Fee is saying here is that it's triggering these cells to do something that they don't need. And with the double dose, so we don't need the normal dose that diabetes patients would need. Instead of even just that, a double dose. And so I like trying to make this as simple as possible. And so we're going to visualize this, all right? We're going to visualize this. And so this visualization might not be perfectly accurate because I'm describing Gillian McMichael in this visualization as semaglutide. So, okay, so imagine a beta cell. I'm just going to imagine a cell that looks like kind of like a red blood cell. It doesn't look like that, kind of whatever. So imagine a beta cell, whatever you imagine a cell that looks like. And a beta cell is out running, out in a race, okay? Out in real life running. Got the trainers on, sweatband, whatever. So a beta cell is running in a race. And it's pretty tired, right? Something's gone on in that beta cell and it's tired. And so semaglutide, who is that beta cell's really sweet trainer, someone who is like so gentle and kind, comes along with the beta cell and says, hey, here's a sports drink for you, and says, you can do it, you can finish that race. And the beta cell says, thank you so much, has a drink of that sports drink, and finishes the race happy. This is a really like basic visual, right? It's way more complicated than that, right? And so the beta cell is tired, it's not working correctly for whatever reason, and then the medication comes along, gives it what it needs, stimulates it, helps it out, and then it does the thing that it wants to do, right? So if we imagine now what Wegovy is, and so that's the diabetes medication, right? There's an issue where we need to give medicine to fix the issue, and everyone's happy in a roundabout way. Obviously, that's not always what happens. But so now let's put that trainer that was previously really sweet and nice and, just positive and wonderful. Let's put that trainer on steroids. Let's turn that trainer into Jillian Michaels from The Biggest Loser. And she's mean. And the beta cell that Jillian McMichaels, aka semaglutide, is training they're not even their client. There's a beta cell who's running in the race and is doing really well, isn't struggling, is happy, they're in the top of the pack. And Jillian McMichaels is like, right, I'm going to take it upon myself to go and train that beta cell who I don't like the look of. And so Jillian McMichaels runs along to the beta cell, gets out the sports drink and just throws it at the back of the head of the beta cell. And the beta cell is like, what the hell? And then Jillian McMichaels is like, drink 10 of those drinks in a row and you better guzzle them down. And the beta cell is like kind of scared and been like, oh, okay. And then Jillian McMichaels, the semaglutide, is saying, now kick up your legs and do some jumping jacks while you're running and do a burpee as well. And so the beta cell finishes the race but is tired, and it's been given all of those drinks that it was like, I didn't even need anyone. And then one of them she threw at the back of my head. And like, what the hell? That was really, I didn't like that. The beta cell could have very comfortably finished that race. But now, every race, Jillian McMichaels, aka semaglutide, is harassing the beta cell. The beta cell will finish the race, but eventually will turn into a genuinely tired beta cell. And then that's when we go back into that original, nice trainer that's helping the tired beta cell, because that beta cell is now in the body of someone who has diabetes because of what Jillian McMichael, aka semaglutide, the drug that's in Wegovy, has done. Right, so that's like story time for you. That is like, very, very rough idea, and there's probably lots of holes in that very ridiculous example of what that looks like. But you can see why harassing and poking and stimulating these beta cells when there's nothing wrong with them can be problematic. So that is the mechanism of what's happening. And from that, what happens is there is appetite suppressants happening in the body. And so your brain is like, I'm not that hungry. When you do eat, you're less... You eat less because you're less hungry, and also the food sits in your digestive system for longer. And there's a lot of problems with that stuff, right? And I'm telling this stuff, and I don't want people to be like, oh, sounds good, I'm gonna go get it. Keep listening to the episode. Okay, so let's look at the science. All right. Now, so if we just imagine it, we've got Novo Nordisk at the top as the manufacturer, and then their two big drugs, the brand name for those diet version of the drugs is Saxenda and Wegovy. Depending on where you live, you might say Wegovy. I don't know how you'd say Saxenda differently. Sax. Enda? I don't know. So they did randomized control trials for both of these drugs. And so we have a lot of kind of similar outcomes for both. And so I'm going to give you all of the similar outcomes for both, and then split it into two and say what's the difference between Saxenda and what's different with Wegovy. Okay. So both, I wouldn't say both, all, because there was a few studies in with the published papers, right? The published trials. If you want a good trial paper study about a drug, who would you want to be doing that? You know, a drug that has historically been very, very dangerous. Weight loss drugs in the past have been very dangerous and have been pulled from the market. You would want scientists who have no connection to the drug manufacturers and who are not influenced by them as much as possible. So some neutral third party. We do not have that here. The trial was planned and funded by Novo, and almost every single author has a conflict of interest. They're on the payroll. And so with the Saxenda, all but two were being paid by Wegovy and by Novo. And with the Wegovy, every single author was on the payroll of Novo. So you can see that is a conflict of interest there. You're being paid by this company. Might you be a little bit influenced by that? And so Saxenda is a daily injection. Wegovy is a weekly injection. Both the trials, the majority of the participants were white women and in their mid-40s with a BMI of 38. So small. For a drug to be labeled as a weight loss drug, the minimum requirement that people who take that drug need to lose is 5% more than the placebo group. Okay, so to be able to be allowed to be marketed as a weight loss drug versus, you know, this is just a placebo, is 5%. 5% of their body weight. Saxenda just scraped through that requirement. Just scraped through. So, I mean, they're barely legally allowed to call it a weight loss drug, but you bet those motherfuckers are calling it a weight loss drug. They're like, this is the best weight loss drug ever. Weight regain happens for both drugs as soon as the drug is stopped, or they're given a placebo. We have pancreatitis markers increased with both drugs. The most common side effects are nausea, diarrhea, vomiting, constipation, stomach pain, headache, fatigue, upset stomach, dizziness, feeling bloated, belching, gas, stomach flu, and heartburn. So people who stayed on Saxenda for another 3 months post the end of the trial. So some people are not the end of the trial, but some people were put on a placebo and some people were still taking Saxenda for another 3 months. Were beginning to put weight back on, even though they were still taking the drug. Surprise, surprise. So even if you're still taking the drug, you're beginning to put weight back on. And then they stopped the trial because we didn't want to see the rest of what happens there, do we? Because guess what's going to happen? They're going to keep putting weight on. Both need to be taken for the rest of your life. So in the US, that's $1,300 a month. In Canada, that's $400 a month, or $4,726 a year. If you're in the US and you are on it for 25 years, as an example, that's going to be $500,000 spent on this drug because it is a lifelong commitment. It is not covered by insurance because it has not been shown to work. It has not been shown to improve health. So many countries have denied to cover it as they have no evidence that it improves health markers. And if you are taking it for life or even an extended time, months, years, it means that you're being exposed to the harmful side effects for longer. Both medications have box warnings. You'll when I say box warnings, commonly known as black box warnings, which is the highest level of warning from the FDA for cancer risk. So that's the most, without FDA not approving it, the sternest, the highest level warning is when they have box warnings. We mentioned before that for those without diabetes, both drugs will probably speed up diabetes progression or even manufacture diabetes. However, we are not sure of the effect exactly as we have no long-term data. Where we're going to get that long-term data from is the poor souls who are taking it. So Reagan Chastain, here's a quote from Reagan. In other studies of similar GLP-1 agonists, we have seen that higher amounts of weight loss are predicated by longer onset of gastrointestinal symptoms. So there is some question as to how much of the weight loss is the action of the drug on hormones and slow digestive motility, and how much is about giving people flu-like symptoms. Also, it's in regards to who gets who it's prescribed to. There is a lower BMI threshold for people who come from Asian, Chinese, Black, African, or Caribbean family backgrounds because of racism. And why is that racist? Is because people who have higher weights in those communities, a lot of what causes higher weight is stress, is oppression, is stigma, and they are experiencing racism. And so to cure the racism that they're experiencing, let's make them thinner. Good idea. Not. Okay, so the summary of the drugs that we're going to go in specifically here is provided by Louise Adams from All Fired Up podcast, who looked at the studies and summarized exactly what was in there. So first we have Saxenda, aka Victoza, liraglutide. And again, so if it's liraglutide but a higher dose. So it's injected daily. In 2014, Saxenda became the first medication of its kind to be approved for weight loss in people without diabetes. So the trial was published in 2015 in the New England Journal of Medicine. The trial was 56 weeks long. Red flag number 1. Weight loss trials, weight loss studies need to be minimum 5 years long, because what we know is that weight loss begins to fail at year 2, 3 onwards. So to really know if this drug is going to produce weight loss, it needs to be 5 years. 56 weeks is 4 years less. So we don't have information. There was 3,700 people in the study. 2,400 took the drug and 1,200 took the placebo. There was a 50% dropout rate. And of that 50%, 1/3 dropped out because they were experiencing unmanageable side effects. So already we have huge numbers of people who are not able to tolerate the side effects. Were those people included in the data? Nope. Nope. In regards to were they included in the data to say here are examples of how our drug has failed? No. No, because that would skew the information. That would suggest that the drug didn't work as well, wouldn't it? So 80% of people had side effects. 6% had serious side effects like gallstones, gastrointestinal issues, acute kidney injury, suicidal ideation, and behaviors. The average pulse rate of participants increased by 2.5 beats per minute. And the weight loss, how much huge amounts of weight loss did they get for all of this absolute shitty side effects? People lost on average 8% of their weight over the 56 weeks. And so that is around 18 pounds in total, which is 1.2 pound per month. Staggering! Groundbreaking! Incredible! 1.2 pounds per month. Oh my goodness. What we see though with any diet or any drug, anything, is there is more weight loss at the beginning and then it slows down. And so you might be like, oh, well, I know a friend who lost 10 pounds in the first month. Or I know someone who lost no weight, or I know someone who put on weight on this drug. The placebo group lost 2.6% of their body weight, around 6.5 pounds. By the way, both groups were told that they needed to exercise, they needed to reduce their calorie consumption by 500 calories, and then they had a monthly check-in with a coach. So it wasn't just the drugs, right? It was also the fact that they were starving themselves and exercising. So the difference between 8% of their weight loss with people with the drugs and 2.6. So it caused like basically 5%, which is, again, this is just the threshold to be legally allowed to call themselves a weight loss drug. 1/3 of people didn't lose the minimum requirement, which is the 5% of their body weight for the drug to be classed as a weight loss drug. 10 women who lost significant amount of weight were diagnosed with breast cancer. So leading to the assumption that the weight loss came from the cancer and not from the drug. And so we don't know if those 10 women, their data was taken out of the study. A lot of key information about the studies have been removed. We don't know. You know, it's kind of like, oh, here's this, and it's like, well, what happened to them? Or this is how we are doing the studies. Kind of like this. Go look over here to see how we're doing it, and then you look over there, and there's no information. Really poorly designed studies, both of these. Not replicable. So if someone wanted to go out and say, I want to do an independent study doing the exact same what you have done here, they would not be able to do it with the information that has been provided in the study, because there's no information on the locations and where they are and what was done, and you know, we've got more broad information. Yeah, so Wegovy, the one that's touted as the absolute miracle in a box. So Wegovy, aka Ozempic. Ozempic is a diabetes version. Wegovy is a weight loss version. It is injected weekly. A trial was published in 2021 in the New England Journal of Medicine. The trial was 68 weeks long. Again, way under what we need. There were 1,961 people in the study. 1,306 took the drug and 655 took the placebo. 1 in 5 people were not able to take the injections. 95% of the participants had side effects. 95%. 10% had serious side effects. The same that we mentioned before, like pancreatitis, which can lead to pancreatic cancer, suicide ideation behaviors, acute kidney injury. So the difference between Saxenda, 80% had serious side effects, 80% had side effects. Wegovy, 95. Saxenda, 6% had serious. Wegovy, 10%. So it was a lot more dangerous. Also, the average pulse rate increased by 3.5 beats per minute. For Saxenda, it's 2.5. Ideally, it would be 0 increased beats per minute. The average weight loss was, okay, get ready for this, incredible weight loss. How much is it gonna be? World-changing drug. Average weight loss was 1.9 pounds a month. Over 68 weeks was 33 pounds. Gee, oh my God, call the presses, which is what they did. They did that. And the reason why they called the presses is because, as we know, weight loss does not work. And so all of the traditional weight loss methods don't work. And so any amount of weight loss is, holy fucking shit. This is amazing. 33 pounds weight loss over 68 weeks. No. To lose 1.99 pound in a month, I just need to go and have a couple of big shits, And I wouldn't have all of this other stuff, risk of cancer and throwing up all the time. And you'll see what happens to people in real life. So the study went on for 68 weeks, but what happened at week 60? Weight loss had plateaued. Then the study was stopped at week 68, presumably because then the weight loss would continue going up. It's like the Nike tick. That's kind of like what weight loss is. Any type of weight loss. The starting weight, go down, and then slowly go up. And then the next diet or weight loss thing, go down, slowly go up. And so up. And of course, there's nothing wrong with having a higher weight. And this is what weight loss studies do. Is the first thing, it's just like really just science for babies, like the first thing you look at for any type of study that says weight loss. How long was the study? Guaranteed it is a year, 19 months. Stretch 2 years. But then they have to stop it because then it's going to show that their product doesn't work. And when I say I guarantee it's going to be a year, 18 months, because there is not once ever been a study that goes on for 5 years or longer that shows anything more than a tiny percentage of people were able to lose weight. It just doesn't exist. It's just not possible. Okay, so 7 people in the study received, quote, rescue interventions. That makes me so annoyed. Rescue interventions. What that means is 2 people got bariatric surgery and 5 got other weight loss drugs. Again, we don't know if their data was added or taken out from the final stats. So we could have someone who's been taking Wegovy, then had stomach amputation surgery, lost lots of weight, and they're like, yeah, just fucking put their stats in with the study because it makes it look better. We don't know if they did that or if they didn't. They didn't tell us they didn't. So I don't know what that leads you to think. It leads me to think that they probably put their outcomes in with the rest of them. There was a follow-up paper printed in April 2022. Amazing, exciting, what we're going to find. So this was a small study that followed 327 people from the original trial for a year after they stopped taking the drug. 2/3 of the weight lost was regained. Surprise! Fucking surprise! Are you shocked? Oh! Goodness, I was so shocked when I read that. The steepest rate of weight regain was from the people who lost the most. And so, if people are thinking, well, I've taken it and it's great for me because I've lost loads of weight. Well, the study shows that you're going to regain that weight at a steeper rate. This study, quote from Louise from All Fired Up. She's quote, this study led even gutter press Daily Mail to run a headline, "Is fat loss drug Wegovy Big Pharma's latest con?" I mean, if right-wing Daily Mail would run a story like that, then the answer is yes. So they made loads of claims that people were magically super healthy and that they sprouted wings and they had lasers coming from their eyeballs. So they claimed to improve cardiometabolic health, testing the HbA1c, which is a diabetic measure. The change was from 5.7 pre-study to 5.6 post. Okay? That's a 0.1 difference in A1C, right? So if you know anything about diabetes, you will know that 5.7 is a healthy range. So those people went from healthy range to a 0.1% difference, healthy range. Cholesterol, triglycerides, and inflammation markers went from a normal range to a normal range. They're hoping people don't look into this and they'll say, it makes people way healthier. It makes them, their A1C is improved. Cholesterol, triglycerides, they're all improved. And so you would hear that and be like, cool, that sounds awesome. But it's a tiniest little, like, hair length, like hair width amount, like literally nothing to write home about. You would not look at that and say, okay, we should say that that person is healthier because they went from being healthy to being healthy or normal range, Trial author Rachel Batterham said, "No other drug has come close to producing this level of weight loss." My God. Which is actually not true. Fen had a 16% weight loss, which is more than Wegovy. And it's a weird brag, right? A weird brag. Fen was banned as it killed people. And it's not true. So basically, in a nutshell, the studies show that people lose weight about a pound. Let's be generous and say 2 pounds. 2 pounds a month over 58 weeks, around about best outcome. And then even if you keep taking the drug, you will begin to plateau, and studies shown put weight on. Stop taking the drug within a year, 2/3 of the weight has been regained. Also in the study, many people were excluded. People were not allowed to take part in the trials if they had diabetes, hypertension, a history of thyroid tumor, thyroid tumor risk factors, pancreatitis, if they were on medication which impacted body size, if they had had weight loss surgery, if they had used other weight loss drugs in the last 3 months, if they had any history of depression or suicide attempt. So these drugs have been tested on a wide range of people, mostly white middle-aged women. And so if you were not a white middle-aged woman, if you have any of these, if you had previously had weight loss surgery, had depression, had diabetes, etc., then this is an untested drug for you. And as well, I mentioned before, no information on trial design, recruitment, or protocol. Every single person on the Wegovy trial was on Novo's payroll. So if you take it, you'll lose a little bit of weight. Stop taking it, you'll put the weight back on. Even if you don't stop taking it, put the weight back on, with horrific side effects, including risk of cancer. And what do those side effects look like? It's easy for me to say, diarrhea and sickness and la 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 la. We'll talk about that in the next episode. So I'm going to leave it here, and then next episode we'll go into their marketing. We'll talk about the supply issues and celebrities. We'll talk about people's personal stories, TikTok, what we do now, all of that type of stuff. So again, if you enjoyed this information that I've presented so far, and you appreciate the work that I do as providing you a free podcast, go to the link in the show notes, or you can just Google Ko-Fi /Fierce Fatty. Buy me a coffee, or I don't know, subscribe. I'm like, what's the other thing? I don't know. And we'll see you in the next episode where we go over all of that other stuff. Okay, bye.
Perfect.